Senator?
I believe your question was about the loss of the direct flight by Japan Airlines. You know, the first thing we have to do is we have to realize that in order to understand what's going on, we need to talk to the people that are there. The one person that I met on that table was China Airlines representative, and I'd love to hear what they think is necessary to increase the attractiveness of coming here. As you know, Hawaiian Airlines is going to get one of the Haneda routes. In discussing it with Hawaiian Airlines, because they came to see me and asked me for a letter of support, which of course I gladly gave, one of the things that I don't think we realize is the fact that Haneda to Honolulu is a great link, because Haneda is like the local airport for Japan, intra-Japan travel, which means that all from the various other airports, they fly into Haneda, and then they have to fly to Narita, and then they have to fly to Honolulu. But they're flying into Haneda. So what does that mean if they come from Haneda directly to Honolulu? It's a very short, more enjoyable flight than going all the way to Narita and coming over. What does that mean for Kona? Because this is the question. Kona, then the little trip from Honolulu to Kona is not something that the people from Japan would find to be that unpleasant because of the fact that it's not bad. You know, you're eliminating the Narita leg and that long trip from Narita to here, or wherever they came from. So when we start to look at how we're going to increase international travel, listening to people is very critical. And as I said earlier, that's what you want in somebody who's going to represent you. You want somebody who's going to listen to the various representatives and understand, okay, we don't like the fact that we've lost the travel, but Japan Airlines is in a difficult economic situation, so let's make the best of it. What is it that we can do to make this more attractive for the Japanese tourists, for example, to come? One thing we can do is understand how they travel and maybe get another route for Hawaiian Airlines out of Haneda.
Thank you very much. Mr. Representative Case, you are back on top, so you will. This next question deals a little bit with our underwear bomber as well as our New York Times bomber. To ensure that another Christmas Day bomber incident does not happen again with the Obama administration, I'm sorry, let me start over. To ensure that another Christmas Day bomber incident does not happen again, the Obama administration is currently coordinating the efforts between agencies for a comprehensive list integrating the various lists of names of individuals with possible ties to terrorism. One of NBT's platforms is to ensure that security screening appropriately balances safety and efficiency while still respecting the person's privacy. How can we make the screening processes more effective and accurate to achieve the goals of national security while preventing the misidentification of innocent individuals? And second question, how do you view the current traveler screening system and what changes, if any, would you make?
Well, I think the key word here is coordination. Way too often in our federal government we have many agencies responsible for some aspect of the same overall problem. September 11th was a tragic day for us and an incredible wake up call for a lot of different reasons. But one of the key reasons was that we had our intelligence capabilities spread out all over our federal government. We had this department responsible for this and that department responsible for that, and they simply weren't talking to each other. We had a bunch of stovepipes all over the place, and there was no lateral connection between the stovepipes. And that was part of why we tried to revise intelligence capability in our country to make sure that it worked together. And similarly, in the same spirit, that's what we are struggling with still, all these years later, with the airport screening processes. Because too often, the information that would lead us to suspect somebody of terrorist activity is still not lateraling across these agency lines and getting to where it needs to get, which is right on the ground before people get out. And we discovered that with the most recent incident. There was a jacket information, but it just didn't get there fast enough. It didn't flow fast enough. And you've got to have it flow immediately. And you have to have very clear lines of authority. So you know, we can sit here and talk about larger picture federal government law issues. trying to give immediate redress to mistakes that happen. This is an imperfect process. And I worked individually as a member of Congress to try to take people off the no-fly list that should not have been on there in the first place. This is a combination of coordination across a lot of different lines.
Thank you. And yes, the fast redress bill was passed in the House a couple times. The Senate, as always, is holding us up. So hopefully, once you all are in Congress, you'll kick it over the top and get that bill signed into law by the President. Mr. Djou.
Yes. Let me take the second part of your question first. That is, I do support the watch list as well as the no-fly list. I think these are important elements to making sure security in our nation is maintained and that we do not get a terrorist incident. When this question was crafted by the Christmas Day bomber this past Christmas in 2009, the Times Square incident had yet to occur. Let us remind ourselves, both with the Christmas Day bomber incident as well as the Times Square incident, in which the terror suspect made it onto an airplane and had to, as the airplane was departing, agents had to go onto the airplane to remove him. We were very, very fortunate that in both incidences, nobody died. In both instances, we were able to apprehend the perpetrator. And we did not have a bigger incident that could have had very serious consequences for the visitor industry here in Hawaii, not just in New York or in Michigan. I think to the more specific question, that is how do we improve it, what do we do about it here? The issue isn't whether or not this program is good or not, it's getting better information technology and communication. The federal government clearly must do a much better job of sharing this information between its agencies. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. I invite all of you to take a look at, as a for example, what private industry does. Any of you who've used Federal Express or UPS anytime recently will know that you can call Federal Express and they can tell you exactly where your package is in the transit in a 24-hour overnight delivery, whether it's in Honolulu or in Memphis station or in a particular truck on a particular street on its way to being delivered. And if UPS and Federal Express can do that, I think the federal government should be able to do the same with a no-fly list with terrorists.
Thank you. First of all, I think it's a very important point that the MBTA and I assume the Hawaii Business Travel Association also supports and is behind the concept of a balance, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking a balance of security as well as individuals. Now, when we look at this, one of the important issues that we know from both the Times Square incident as well as the Christmas Day bomber is who is it that's going to enforce the no-fly list or the watch list. And in that particular case, I think the secure, what they call the secure flight program of the TSA should be fully implemented, and that would put it on them. Because right now, you've got all these different entities, including the airlines themselves, that are trying to enforce this program. You've got to have one entity responsible who's always going to be looking at it, and I think that's the first step. Now that's the issue of how do we be secure. Now the next question is how do you then balance the issues of the individual rights who are on these lists, who shouldn't be on this list. And you heard about the HR, I think it's 559, which is called the Fast Redress Act. And in addition to that, we had something called TRIP. But it's been difficult to get people off of these lists quick enough with Homeland Security. And that's why the Fast Redress Act is being so hotly debated and so necessary in what we're doing. But that's all part of a component. Like I said earlier, the various things that the MBTA supports is really critical in doing this whole thing. Whether it's you have in there the visa waiver program and how that then interfaces with the ESTA program, these are all one total package. And you need someone there who's going to move that total package together. Because I think if we do it piecemeal and we don't do it in a coordinated effort with every component doing its part, we're not going to have as effective a system or a system that really does do the balance that we need between security and individual rights. Because after all, without the